Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's London Java Community Lightning Talks session. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Abby. I work with Barry, who's the founder of the London Java community, and I have the privilege of hosting this afternoon's event. If you can hear an echo, I'm really sorry, it's just my room. Also, for those of you who don't know, the LJC is just one of the communities that is run by RecWorks. We are a tech recruitment company with a massive difference. As a company, we believe that recruitment really can be a force for good in the industry, beyond just placing people in jobs. We have a particular focus on learning, mentoring, and personal development. From our perspective, if people want to learn and others want to teach or share knowledge, we are happy to connect you through our communities and events. We see this as giving back to those we've worked with in the past, but also paying it forward to those we hope to work with in the future. To date, we have run over 700 events for engineers, developers, students, graduates, CTOs, aspiring CTOs. We have run conferences, lightning talks, hackathons, meetup mingles, all sorts. In January of this year, we made our 4,000th introduction through our Meet a Mentor program. We're really excited about that and really looking forward to seeing where that goes next. As I've already said, we love to give opportunities for people to connect, and this event is part of that. If you would like to know more about any of our other communities, please do get in touch with myself or Barry, and we will be able to take it from there. The recording of today's session will be available on our YouTube channel. I will put the link to that in the chat for you, or you can message me directly and I will send you the video when it's ready. Again, I'll put the link to my profile in the chat in a few moments for you. We have 3 speakers for you today, and I'm really excited. We're going to be kicking off with Tony. He is going to speak to us about celebrating success in a hybrid world with a kudos Slack bot. So over to you, Tony.
Great. Hello, everyone. So I'm just going to jump into sharing screen, which will definitely work first time. All right. And you can all see my screen. Yes, of course. All right, cool. Sorry, 1 second. I just want to fix up my screens, otherwise I won't be able to see my notes. Apologies. Okay. All right, this is good enough. Okay, cool. All right, so hello everyone. So I'm going to talk to you about something I introduced where I currently work at RecWorks. And I'm going to have to take you back all the way back to 2020, early 2020, where I kicked this off. And it's going to be about mainly focusing on the kind of Slack channel aspect of Kudos, which is something that you might be using at the moment. If not, I can talk to you a bit more about how it works. And also a bit about the Kudos Slack bot, which I added along to it to kind of help interaction with it. So this is kind of just as a share, this is kind of a cut down version of a longer talk I'm working on, which would be like 30 minutes. So I'd appreciate feedback, and also, I don't know, if you know anyone who's after a longer talk about this subject, let me know as well. All right. So why would you celebrate success in the first place? Well, I think we work in, obviously we work in software engineering, and a lot of it is focused around improvements and how can we improve things and finding things to improve, which is definitely an important thing, but I think we should always try not to forget that it's also important just to celebrate the good things sometimes. And alongside it, just showing that you value people. It's not like you're making a huge big show and dance about it. It's just showing that these little things throughout the day, you appreciate them and that you value people. And similarly, just celebrating the small wins. sometimes you do have you do get into the habit of you only celebrate things when you've when you've released a project or when you've done something really big. Sometimes it's good just to celebrate things that just happen in the kind of business as usual day to day. So what stops people from celebrating success? First one is where I fall under, in that it's kind of awkward. Like, I'm okay actually in terms of giving feedback, but receiving feedback myself, it can just feel a little awkward sometimes. Don't know what to say, don't know how to react. It's one of the reasons that does come up, and it's one of the things that people have said to me. And also, this is kind of a big one, but just almost getting into the habit of it is part of the challenge. Of it's just not in your immediate mindset to do it, so you don't think about it. The other one, which comes on to what I'm about to say, but it's around lockdown, and typically Rightmove was, like a lot of places, was 5 days a week in the office, and that was quite a big shock for, like it was for a lot of people, to move into a state where you're all at home, and a lot of the communication either doesn't happen as much anymore in the same way, like, you know, just going up to somebody's desk or just meeting someone in the kitchen, and a lot of things become more async, like over Slack. So introducing the Kudos Slack channel, which is kind of the start, where it's an example of the kinds of things people will share, but there's not really much to talk about, really. It's a Slack channel where people just say thanks, and you can say it in any kind of format or way you want. Just make sure to @ people and say kudos, thanks, whatever version of thank you want to use, and that's it. It was kind of good in that it's kind of a very low barrier to entry. There's no like special form you need to fill out. It's just writing a Slack channel, which you're probably already using, already have open. So this is where the Kudos Slack bot comes in. One of the things is, alongside that whole kind of building a culture and building a habit, it's the how do you kind of remind people that it exists, because you tend to forget. So what I did is I created this very simple like Node Slack Node application, which just connects to the Slack API, and every week on a schedule on Monday morning, it's going to collate all of the message from the previous week and send it in the general channel. So it's kind of a way of inviting people to the Kudos channel, and also kind of a reminder that it exists. So we found that that's really helped, and after it's sent out, you do just see a bunch of people just joining the Kudos channel after that. So it's just good to see. Building a network of advocates is another thing that's helped, because you do have just people who feel very passionately about this in the same way I do, and it's important to like make sure you're networking with those people so that you can build a group of advocates which belong to just different teams and different teams and different like roles as well. That helps. Giving kudos to new joiners is another thing which has helped, which is just kind of integrates them in the team and kind of builds that habit, because it's just something that exists already, and that's just, okay, this is just how we give thanks and kudos. Some quick stats. So it's still being used essentially. So altogether we have 302 kudos messages since beginning of 2020. And it's fairly consistent in that in 2022 it's on track for there to be around 100 kudos messages for the year. There's been 96 people who've given those kudos messages. On average, it's about 4 a week now. It used to be a bit more than that, but I think just now that Rightmove has more of a hybrid model, it's a bit less because you just have more of those interactions in person. And of course, the most important stat, which is how many kudos messages have at least one emoji, which is 52%, over half, which is great. Sorry, that was a, I just received a call, apologies. So things to take away, so like, did it help basically, right? Because I was trying to solve a problem, and it did help to fill that gap where people needed to celebrate success, but they couldn't do it in person. And it's proven to be kind of a low effort way of doing it as well. Like although at the beginning, I did as much as possible try and push it forward and mention it to people. Nowadays, I kind of quite hands-off about it. Like that kudos node application I mentioned, it's automated, so I don't, other than maintaining it, there's nothing I need to do there. And yeah, it just happens now, and it's just become much more of a habit for people to do, which is the aim. And that is everything I had. Any questions?
Exactly what I was about to ask. Any questions for Tony?
Not a question, but I think it's a fantastic. I've just been writing to Abby in between, like, we have to do this. I think it's exactly that. Low, what was it? High impact, low
effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy. And there's just, we've got a few channels which celebrate specific things, but we don't have any kind of, but there's so many jobs that get done that don't fall into those categories. And I think this is a great, really, really easy way to celebrate people. How do people respond that have been kudos on there, Tony?
Thumbs up is, I guess, is the immediate response of thanks. Well, I think I've had positive feedback in that either they say, you know, either it's just a general, oh, it was nice to get that kudos, or the even better response is they then go on to kudos other people, because they then go, okay, cool, this is how you do it.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially for new starters as well. That's very, very kind of like, oh, good. You know, like someone's publicly told me I've done well. Yeah, I can see the power.
Yeah.
For new starters, it's a nice way of just kind of for them to be part of the team.
We've just had a comment come up in the chat as well, especially in our siloed life. This is a very good thing to have. Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much, Tony. That was really interesting. I'm definitely in agreement with Barry about that. We need to do something about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
More stuff to do, yay! Let's do it.
but low effort.
But low effort, exactly. But high impact, that's definitely a way to go, definitely. So Barry is our next speaker for today with his talk, three reasons why you should consider mentoring. Over to you, Barry.
Thanks, Abs. Right, I'm unmuted. Yeah, I've not got any slides to share, so it's just me, I'm afraid. But yeah, as Abby said, then my talk is 3 reasons why you should consider becoming a mentor. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Barry Cranford. I'm the director of RecWorks, the founder of the London Java community, and the founder of an organization called Meet a Mentor, which Abby spoke about briefly in her introduction. So Meet a Mentor, if you're not familiar with it, it's like a mentor introduction community. So it's a place that you can go to meet a mentor, somebody that if you're looking to get over a specific thing, or you're looking to learn a specific thing, or it's something you can sign up to and try and help other people if you're that way inclined. So it was established in 2017. I made the first 250 introductions, and we've now made over 4,000 introductions through the community as of January. So this talk is targeted at anyone out there that's a software developer, whether you're a junior or senior developer. Doesn't really make a difference. And I just want to kind of offer a perspective that hopefully will make you want to join. So reason number one on why you should consider this is all around confidence, self-confidence, and specifically around imposter syndrome. So many people struggle with imposter syndrome. It impacts almost everyone in one way or another. And the truth is, with this kind of thing, you just don't know what you know until you speak to somebody that doesn't know it. So you don't know what you know until you start explaining that to somebody that doesn't know that. We've found this like so often with people that give presentations. They come off afterwards and people will say, or they'll give the presentation and people approach them afterwards and say, wow, that was so interesting. You know, even just like Tony's talk there, like we're talking about it, and Tony might have assumed this was an obvious thing that everyone was doing, but until you start speaking to people that aren't doing it, you don't appreciate how much you know about a topic. And so the more you can do that, the more you just defeat this imposter syndrome, because you realize you're not an imposter. You do know more than a lot of people do about this particular topic, and it's information of value. I remember we had I was mentoring this marketing consultant, and he was somebody that he was convinced he didn't know that much about marketing, but he'd been looking into this topic for ages. He'd had a bit of success, but he wasn't what he would consider a specialist. But then he started speaking to other people that were just like randomly friends of friends and that kind of thing. And people were like, wow, like, you know so much, you've made such a difference. And it just blew his mind, because he went from being this imposter around, oh, I don't know anything about marketing because I haven't achieved the success I want, to people trying to engage him and paying him, you know, hundreds of pounds a day as this specialist, because he was able to help them get over those early stages. So the first reason to get into mentoring is for confidence, and helping deal with your own imposter syndrome. Give me one sec. Second reason is all about employability. So employers absolutely love to see people that are mentoring these days. We work as recruiters, and so often we're told it's like a nice to have, so it's not a prerequisite, but people are saying, yeah, you know, these tech skills, and also if they've done some mentoring, that'd be really useful. It's something you can put on your CV, you can put on your LinkedIn, you can talk about in interviews, and it just gives a really good way of showing the kind of person that you are, and that you've got the kind of communication skills to help people through things. We placed a team of people last year at a company that said a similar thing, you know, that developers that had mentoring skills and ability. And we found in a few cases, people were placed that had not as strong technical skills as they were hoping for, but they had so much mentoring experience from like other organizations, like Me to Mentor, but not that specifically, but other organizations where they've been really heavily involved in mentoring either children or like school children, university students, juniors. And that was enough to get them the job, even though there were stronger developers that had gone through in the process. So it really is the kind of thing that employers, it will just give you that leg up, whether at your own company and looking at promotions or joining new companies. So secondly, friendly employability. The third reason that I'd recommend it, and this is something that you don't understand the importance of until you've mentored yourself, but that you will learn things yourself from your mentee. We found this again. We found this a lot from our mentors. I remember in particular, I think he might have actually given a lightning talk about it. A CTO mentor was speaking to somebody, and he found out from his junior, his mentee, about things like mobile technologies and front-end technologies. And it was the kind of thing that he hadn't had a chance to look into. Obviously, especially as a CTO, you've got to keep on top of so many different things. And so you don't always have the chance to learn about the latest technologies that are on the scene. So he was learning from his mentee, and he was like, whoa, I'm meant to be the one doing the mentoring here, and I'm getting mentored myself. But it's true, and it's something I've experienced myself. So another person that I was mentoring, he started with a business and learned about this company called Upwork. And I was just talking to him, just generally about things. And he was explaining about this platform that gives employers an ability to connect with freelancers all around the world. And we tried, and we'd had a few experiments. It hadn't worked, and we'd done what most people do, and just think, oh, it's too complicated, it doesn't work, it's not for me. But he was able to say, no, you're doing it wrong. This is how you should be approaching it. And gave us the confidence to try it again, and then coached us through the first steps. And now it's just made this huge impact and changed our entire business. And it came not because I went out looking for a mentor for this particular thing, but because I'd been mentoring this guy for years, and he was just like, hey, by the way, did you know about this? And was able to impact. So again, you won't realize it until you mentor someone yourself, but you will learn things yourself from this new generation that are probably far more woke than any of us. So they're my 3 reasons. 1, confidence and making a dent at least, or moving forward a bit towards imposter syndrome. 2, employability, and because employers love it. And 3, because you'll learn things yourself. And as a final thing, if anyone wants to sign up to me to mentor, I'll put a link down there, all completely free. The one piece of advice I'd offer on it is if you do connect with a mentee, then try and find someone that shares your values. And if you can do that, then you'll meet someone that you'll be close to for years. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, Barry. Any questions? No.
I'll just say, yeah, I've used Me to Mentor, so I just want to kind of say that I agree with what Barry said. I've been a mentee rather than a mentor on there, but I've got a lot of value out of it. And yeah, it's a great kind of, I suppose, service that, yeah, like you say, is free. So make the most of it.
Great, good to hear it. Thanks, Nick. Well, time for you to be a mentor now, I think, by the sound of things.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, guys, and thanks, everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Barry. Excuse me. So yeah, Tony's just having to drop out, but he said if anyone's got any further questions for him, do just send them over on Slack. So you can do it that way. And last but not least today, we have Nick. He's going to be speaking to us about grow yourself through communities. So over to you, Nick.
Thank you. Right, I'll try and get the share going. I'll make this full screen. Let me know if it doesn't work out as we'd hope. How's that look? Brilliant. All right, so I mean, as you can see, there's a big DevOps branding in the front of this talk. So this is a talk I'm planning to give at DevOps in a couple of weeks. So I'm really grateful to the London Java community for allowing me to join today and get some practice in. So any feedback would be much appreciated as well. So yes, this is a little bit longer than your typical lightning talk, which is generally like 5 minutes. It's going to be a little bit longer, probably hopefully stretched to about 15, but that'll be a good judge of how I'm doing in terms of kind of progressing this. But let's get started. So yeah, so today's this talk's about how you can grow yourself, I suppose, both personally and professionally through being involved in communities. So a little bit about me. I'm Nick Evitt. So I'm a software engineer. I'm working for Morgan Stanley as a tech lead, focused on platforms and building platforms, APIs, that kind of thing. And I'm also leader of the Manchester Java community, which is where it's up in the north of England, and it's one of the communities that I'm heavily involved in at the moment. So over the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about what a community is, why they're important. We'll look at some different types of communities with I suppose a tech focus. We'll look at different ways that you can engage with communities and the different roles you can play in a community, and ultimately how we can, through that process, how they can help you grow in different ways. So let's start by defining what a community is. The definition that I've found that I like quite a lot is that a community is the condition of sharing or having certain attitudes and interests in common. And I think kind of the key word there is like things in common. So the word community has evolved from the word common. And it's not just attitudes and interests, but it's also things like beliefs and ideas. And it's also worth, I think, pointing out that I think diversity is quite important in communities as well. So it's not just that we're all the same, we have the same kind of ideas. It's also that we can come together and we can have diverse viewpoints around different things. So why are they important? Communities give us a sense of belonging. I think having shared interests and shared beliefs with people, it makes us feel a part of something ultimately. And communities can provide a safe space where we can be our true selves and feel comfortable. It's not always the case that the community is a safe space, but the good communities generally are. So let's have a little look at a few different types of communities. Now, the first one for me is family and friends. So, essentially it starts at home. If you've got a good, strong, family unit or friendship circle, they give you the foundations of effectively being, successful in life. They provide that support. They provide a sense of security that helps you succeed effectively. And so now taking this slightly kind of more towards, I suppose, the tech focus. I mean, most of us will work in an organization, and this is where a team becomes important. So this is one of my previous teams, not my current one. But within a business, you're generally aligned on business priorities. You've probably got shared ideas and principles on maybe how you deliver change if it's a software delivery that you're focused on. You're also most likely going to disagree about things. And this is where, the team kind of community will collaborate, whether that's through kind of mentoring, coaching, pairing, to build, common kind of approaches to solving problems, and also socialize to enhance those bonds between each other across the team. Stepping up from team into, I suppose, the wider organization where you might work. There's various different communities throughout an organization. So these might be guilds that have maybe focused on technical things like a DevOps guild, or maybe an SRE guild, or even like a Java focus group. But also then things like, tech talks that can be organized within an organization, or careers groups where you can help kind of develop yourself. Then also things that are maybe less aligned with, maybe your career, but more just around your life in general. So whether that's you care about the environment and you're focused on sustainability, there's usually communities around that, or like LGBT plus communities, which are hugely important for helping people to feel welcome and be their true selves within whatever organization they might work in. So stepping, I suppose, away from where we work a little bit and thinking about, I suppose, outside of our organizations, there's local tech communities. So that's things like where we are today, the London Java community. There's lots of different, what you would call Java user groups or JUGs across the world. I'm grateful to be here today with the London Java community, and I also help run the Manchester Java community, and we work quite closely with the London Java community, and they're both great places. And I suppose the remote nature of kind of that COVID has pushed us to over the past few years has meant that these kind of local communities have actually become much more widespread than they were previously. The reach of who we can impact and who we can kind of interact with has grown significantly. But there's not just Java communities, there's other types of agile style communities. There's lots of things happening locally. I know in London there's XTC, Extreme Tuesday Club, which is a great agile focused community. And in Manchester, there's things like XP Manchester. So yeah, there's lots of local communities that people get involved in. And then kind of taking that step further, we can think about like wider tech communities. So stepping outside of our localized groups, there's more, I suppose, there's wider reaching communities across the tech industry. So a couple of key ones for me are, open source projects. So here we've got Adoptium. So Adoptium's an open source, it's a group or a project that produces Java binaries, but essentially it's open source. There's an open source project behind it. It's a group that I've been involved in, and they're a very open community. They kind of are very approachable and get people involved. And it's a kind of place where if you're keen to get into contributing to open source, it's a great place to go and a great opportunity to get involved. But there's lots of different kind of open source projects out there. So finding something you're interested in and trying to interact with those communities, I'd highly recommend. And the good projects out there will be receptive of that and welcoming to your involvement. And what you can see here on the left-hand side, this side is the JCrete Java Duke. So JCrete is a conference, but it's not your typical conference such as DevOps, which is like speaker-led. It's more of an unconference format. And for me, this kind of, I suppose, community is one of the most valuable. You know, it's a place where you can go, you can meet people like-minded, but I suppose the content is driven by the community, so that you'll have a typical conference, but as part of that, the people who turn up will have ideas about what they want to talk about, and as a group, you will decide on what's interesting and set the schedule for the conference. So Jay Creek's one of the best examples of that. That's based out in Crete, which can be a bit of a barrier to entry. Having to go to Crete to a conference can be challenging, but there's also some good examples in the UK. So, I mean, the LJC runs their own conference once a year. There's J Alba up in Edinburgh. We've run one in Manchester called J Mank, and hopefully we'll be looking to do that again this year. So I'd highly recommend the unconference format for a place where you can, get out there and have conversations more than anything with people who are interested in the same kind of things as you. So let's kind of move on. We've talked about a few different types of communities, and now we're going to focus a little bit on the different ways that you can engage with the community. So first of all, just turn up, attend, and I suppose that's effectively what we're all doing here today. We've just turned up. But I think this is a really valuable kind of first step. So for some people, just turning up to an event can be quite intimidating. There's lots of new people you've never met before. If you're anything like me, you'll be a bit of a lurker, where you'll kind of attend a community at first, and you'll sit in the background a bit and just find your feet, get to know that community a little bit more, get a feel for what they're about, effectively. And this is really good in a sense of growth. So this is going to, I suppose, help you understand whether that community is right for you in terms of maybe the content that's there, the kind of the things they're talking about, but also whether you feel welcome and whether you start to get that sense of, I suppose, belonging. If you don't get that, I mean, you'll have learned from it. You'll understand a little bit more about what it is you're interested in, and that'll help you find future communities that are more aligned with your interests. The next step, I would say, is to take that attendance on a little bit further and actively start to, I suppose, seek out and receive the information and the interactions that are most relevant to you. So that might be, you found a community that feels right for you. You might start to be a bit more selective of the specific events you attend, the ones that have really got that, that really resonate with you in terms of what they're about. You become more aware of the people in the community and start to seek out maybe some interactions with different people. And this is going to help you grow a little bit more. You'll have a more intentional approach about being involved with the community. You'll be receiving, information that's going to improve your knowledge, improve your experiences, and you'll be making some really valuable connections. And I think something that's kind of key here is at each of these stages, as you kind of get more involved in the community, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And there's a bit of that kind of fear stage of once you kind of go from comfort into this fear area. I think that's the real kind of place where you start to grow. You overcome those fears and you start to kind of build that new level of, I suppose, confidence. So next, having turned up at found communities that you enjoy and that resonate with you, it's about thinking about how you can maybe start to give back to that community. So this can come in different forms. I mean, a typical kind of way of giving back is to give a talk, but that speaking publicly isn't for everybody. So some other alternatives here are actually just giving back with your time, and that might be volunteering. Maybe you just got time to help out at events. Maybe you've got ideas of kind of talks you would like to see. But this is something that organisers of communities or leaders in the communities really value. Is that feedback from the community to help shape the future effectively. And any good community should be open to this kind of involvement and actively encourage it. And it's responsibility of people like myself who organise like the Manchester Java community to remove barriers for people to contribute and make the communities accessible to everybody. And again, thinking about comfort zones, that step from just being maybe more a passive kind of member of a community to becoming more actively involved and sharing more of your, I suppose, time or ideas can be quite scary, to be honest. And, putting yourself out there, whilst it's a difficult step to take, once you do that, you're gonna grow. You're gonna gain more confidence in yourself, and also you start to gain, those connections you make with people. You start to, gain respect of people and an element of trust from them. And I think something that's really important is like stepping out of that comfort zone and maybe giving a talk or seeing your ideas kind of become reality in that community, give you a real sense of achievement. And now this final way for me is the most important. It's about giving back to that community and paying it forward in terms of, you've maybe kind of made some great progress in the community. You've become maybe fairly prominent in that community. You've got that position now where you can help others follow that same path that you went through. Give them the opportunity, encourage, welcome newcomers, give them, make them feel welcome, give them a safe space to join, and then encourage them to get involved more actively themselves. Giving people, other people a platform, I think, is just a hugely important thing for any, community leader or anybody who's kind of in a already exists in a community. And again, this is for yourself. It's another growth opportunity. I think a nice side effect of helping others is that you will just naturally grow yourself. When you gain more trust and respect from others in the community, it kind of grows your network further. And I think in general, this just leads to new opportunities, both I suppose within that community and outside of it, whether that's from a career perspective or just a personal perspective. So just to kind of summarize then, I think my recommendation is to get out there and find the communities that interest you. Take care in choosing ones that align with your interests and you feel welcomed at, first and foremost. Find communities that are inclusive, have good values, and definitely make you feel welcome. Once you're involved in a community, think about how you can help to grow that community itself. Look for those opportunities. Maybe that's just spreading the word, volunteering your time, or even doing some kind of talk. And like I said before, most communities should be very encouraging of this and welcoming of that kind of involvement. Sometimes it can be as simple as just saying, some of the community leaders, how can I help effectively? And I'm sure, I know for one, I would welcome that kind of question and find ways that you could get involved. And then I think, once you're kind of involved in a community, have a focus on growing up people. And I think there's just like I was saying before, there's just a natural side effect of that is that if you focus on growing others effectively, this is where you will grow yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nick. Has anybody got any further questions for Nick? I'll take that as a no. Go on.
No one else. How did you first get involved in going from a community attendee, if you like,
right?
Somebody there. How did you go from that to first kind of being like, oh, maybe I could do something? So I mean, this was the Manchester Java community when, I think I'd attended a few events, and I remember just going to events and just being, enjoying the content. And I got an opportunity to attend JCREAT, which was one of the conferences that I mentioned. And I went to that conference, and I was just a very kind of passive attendee because it was pretty overwhelming, to be honest. It was daunting, the amount of kind of really interesting and smart people were there. But I came back from that just hugely motivated and enthusiastic about, I suppose, my career and what might be. So I made a decision that I would put forward a lightning talk at the Manchester Java community. So it was almost like a leap of faith to kind of make that step. I spoke to the leaders there and gave a talk. And that for me was almost like
pivotal point in my career. It just kind of, there's this trajectory from that point where I gave that talk. And I think the nice thing about Manchester, with it being quite small, what followed on from that was one of the leaders asked would I like to get a bit more involved and help out. So I was like, well, yeah, okay. So I started getting a bit more involved and, stepping out of that comfort zone, standing up at the front in front of like 40 people, introducing the event, that kind of thing was pretty scary. But everything was just kind of built on from there. And I think it was, I suppose the key point was that kind of just trying to build up enough confidence in myself to take that kind of leap of faith and put myself out there and give that first talk effectively. It's quite difficult to do though. I'll be honest.
Like from there, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm consumed by communities and the Manchester Java community and like DevOps and things like that. But yeah, it's crazy.
But am I right in thinking, Nick, that you would say it's definitely worth putting yourself out there to be doing what you're doing now, communities-wise?
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. And I'd say it's not easy. Like sometimes you need a sponsor, don't you? Somebody who's kind of like can give you that little bit of a push and give you that support through the process. I think I was probably at a point in my career where I'd kind of had enough confidence to put myself out there, but not everybody's got that. So it's almost like I see it as a duty now of somebody in kind of like in the position where I'm in the Manchester Java community to try and help people, and anyone who expresses any interest, I kind of jump on it and try and get them, as involved as I can to kind of give them that platform and hopefully build their kind of careers as well and their, professional lives. It's just hugely valuable.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic. For anyone who doesn't know as well, if you want to dip your toe in the water, but you're not sure how to get started with speaking, we do speaking workshops through RecWorks. So if you are interested in that side of things, please do let me know and we will be able to get in touch with you and let you know when our next workshops are. Barry's got something to say about that. Now I've just said that. I
was going to say, do you mind if I just go on?
Go for it.
So yeah, as Abby said, yeah, more than happy to run these workshops. So we've put these workshops together now, having worked with aspiring speakers for years and interviewed like hundreds of keynote speakers and people like that. We've got several things on the LJC YouTube channel around panel events about how to get started talking and how to go into conferences and stuff. And we initially did this to try and get these lightning talks done because we felt that lightning talks were like dipping a toe in the water. However, having spent months trying to encourage people to do lightning talks and getting pushback, we realized that it was still a step too far. Even Nick, as you said there, putting yourself forward for a lightning talk, although it's only a 5-minute talk, so it feels like it should be quite easy, it's actually quite an overwhelming step. So we put these workshops together to be like dipping a toenail in the water. So we've got this workshop that you should be able, it basically takes out about 80% of the thinking for doing your first talk, your first lightning talk. So the idea is it's kind of a bit of a cheat sheet that we go through. So you should be able to prepare a talk in about 10 minutes that's ready to give as your first talk. And it just sort of walks you through all the confidence and how to choose a topic and all that kind of stuff, which seems just so daunting when you haven't spoken and when you're not a speaker and you think, how on earth have I got anything interesting to talk about? But then as soon as you see how easy it is, I think, well, a lot of people, you get the bug, and like you see with Nick and most of the speakers at DevOps and all these conferences are people that started really nervous, really unsure, really imposter syndrome, convinced they had nothing useful to share with people or that kind of thing. Gave a few talks, got a bit of feedback and went on from there. So yeah, if you've even tiny bit of interest in it, let us know and we can take you forward.
And if I can just say, I've done at least 2 out of the 3 workshop sessions myself. It really is simple and a really helpful way to get into speaking. Definitely, yeah, I would highly recommend it myself too. So if anyone does want to join us, yeah, like Barry says, get in touch with us and we can see what we can do for you. Well, that is all our lightning talks for today. We're actually going to finish a little bit early. How exciting. But thank you so much to Tony and to Barry and to Nick for coming to speak to us today, and thank you to all of you guys for joining us for the lightning talks. As I've already said, you can find the recording on YouTube on our channel, or just ping me a message. Both the links for that should be in the chat, and we look forward to seeing you at our next LJC event. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Abby.
Thanks.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.